In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up your gradebook. Um, there is a chance that this gradebook will be attached to this video so that you can just download it instead. But either way, uh, you'll be able to see what we are doing to keep track of your grade throughout the semester. So if you've seen in your syllabus, you've got 3 tests, each worth 15% or a combined 45%. You've got some video responses that are required, a total of 10% of your grade, so divided by 4, each one will be 2.5%. Every class has some sort of assignment. For some, it'll be a CJ Lab assignment or series of assignments. Some, it'll be a presentation of some sort worth 20% of your final grade, and then your final exam is worth 25%. All of these things will be found in Blackboard, and there should be a final average column or listing there to kind of average, but we're going to do a couple of things that won't account for. Most notably, we're going to drop your lowest grade and replace it with the final exam. So to do that, we've got I have a couple of formulas, so I'm just going to show you what's going on in your gradebook. So you can either fill out your own or download it if I've attached it, and keep track throughout the semester. So just right off the bat, just make note that I'm working in Apple Pages. It's the Apple version of Microsoft Excel. The formulas will be the same whether you're doing it in Pages or Excel, so that shouldn't be a problem. And if we're going to set it up, if you're in one class, this will be set up for that. If you're in multiple classes, you can come down and the columns will be the same, at least if you're in multiple classes that I am teaching. If you're taking these classes from other instructors, they may not be the same, but you can come through and you can highlight the whole row here and copy it, paste it, and it'll do the same thing. So you'll see these little warning signs here. These are where formulas have been entered, but there's no data, so it gives an error message. As soon as we start entering things into the columns, it'll be fine. So the first thing we're going to do is form a test average. So we're going to average these 3 columns, and you can see that formula down here. If you'll enter equals average, open parentheses, B2 through D2, you'll get that average. The second one we're entering is an alternate average, and this will be the average that accounts for the final exam replacing your lowest test grade. If your final exam is lower than all 3 of your regular tests, then we will just be using the test average rather than the alternative average. But if you do better on your final exam, this will be the average that you're using. No formulas here. These are just entering the grades for the video responses. We'll enter the grade for the assignment. We'll enter the grade for the final exam. I do have a bonus column. Bonus is not a guaranteed. I call it bonus and not extra credit. Opportunities may arise throughout the semester, but they're not guaranteed. So the reason they're in a separate column is because I don't add them into your final exam grade that could potentially replace the low test grade. So for example, if you make a 70 on your final exam, but you have 10 bonus points, what will replace test 3, which you made a 60 on, will be the 70 and not the 70 plus the bonus, which would be 80. So 70 would replace, the bonus does not count for that. And then your final average is this formula down here. It's just adding the weights to them. So the test averages weighted at 45, each of these is 2.5%, and your final assignment, whether it's CJ Lab or otherwise, is 20%, and your final exam worth 25%, and this is the bonus, 25%. You know, the only notable distinction in the final exam or the final average formula is the max E2 or F2. So max, this should be column E2, and this is F2, so what is being multiplied by 45% is the maximum column in E or F. So whichever is greatest will be used. And so I'll show you how that works out. So we'll do some really simple formula. Let's say your 3 test average, or your 3 tests come out as a 70, 80, and 90, and that would be an average of an 80. And you'll notice right now that you have a 0, essentially nothing entered in the final exam column. So what this is doing is taking 70, 80, 90 and averaging, dropping the lowest, which is 70. So you're taking 80, 90 plus final exam average and taking it, which is a 0, and then dividing by 3. So your average in the alternate category should be much lower because you haven't taken your final exam yet. If that were the case, and that's the way it ended up, this number here is taking the average that is higher out of the two, 80 or 56.67, and we're obviously going to use the 80. So let's go ahead and fill in our other categories. The video response, there's probably going to be no distinction. You're either going to make 100 or you're going to make a 0. You either did it or you didn't do it. So we're going to put all hundreds, assuming that we're going to do everything. The assignment, we'll just put in some numbers here, and then for the final exam, we'll add in a better grade than we made on our lowest test grade. So let's also put an 85 in for that. We'll put no bonus in there, but we can add it in real quick. Let's put 10 points for here, and you'll notice when I add the bonus, your final average should go up, but the alternate average should stay the exact same because nothing's being accounted for that bonus in that average. But there's no guarantee that there's going to be bonus, so I'm not going to lead you along that thought process that we're going to do the bonus. So here is where we're going to end up with a final average of 87. We've got a standard average of 80, but we did a little better on our final exam, so we're going to see our alternate average be increased slightly. So we're going to use that average in our final calculation. So the final average formula will be 85 times 45%. You made 100, so that'll be 10 points going into that average. 85 times 0.2 or 20%, and then 85 times 0.25%. And again, you can copy and paste these. So you go down here and you enter your other class, however well you did in that grade. Let's say you did the same, but you forgot to do video response 2. This is how things are going to end up. And in this particular case, you did not do better on your final exam, and you'll notice that test average is higher than alternate average, so that's the one that would be used. So the last thing I want to make note of is when you have this formula, this would be the exact grade that you earned in the class. If you are relying on Blackboard to give you your grades and things along those lines, just remember that it is not accounting, the Blackboard average is not accounting for replacing the final exam with your lowest test grade. So if you do better on the final exam than your lowest test from test 1, 2, or 3, your average is going to be slightly higher or somewhat significantly higher, depending on how much better you did, than Blackboard is showing you. Blackboard is never going to be higher than your actual average. It will always be the same or lower. So you can go into Blackboard and look at that average and know that you're not doing any worse than it's showing. But there is a potential that you could be doing better. Of course, if there's any questions, feel free to contact me. Feel free to download this if I've attached it. I'll try to remember to do that. But as always, you can email me any questions or call during office hours.